Stop playing with them, ooh.
Hi, I'm Nicola Cairncross. Welcome to my podcast. This is where we talk about entrepreneurship, digital marketing, being a digital nomad, and much, much more. I really hope you enjoy the show. Very soon, there are going to be millions of unwilling entrepreneurs with no clue how to get started. There's a financial Armageddon coming. All the financial experts and macroeconomists are predicting it. Most likely this year, or if by some black magic the globalist central banks and government minions can stave it off a bit, we may last till 2025. But it's coming soon. All empires have ended after around 250 years, and their fake fiat currencies with them. And the USA's 250th anniversary is September 2024. Just at the time of the next election. The American empire will fall and its Western satellite nations will fall with it. That's the UK, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. It's going to hit soon and it's going to hit hard. It's going to hit what anthropologist David Graeber calls bullshit jobs, the hardest of all. Defined as admin, marketing or accounting orientated jobs, largely the service industries, I checked the numbers and it's even worse than I thought. According to the Office of National Statistics, the ONS, the closest thing we have to a reliable source, the numbers are startling. The service industries, including the retail sector, the financial sector, the public sector, business administration, leisure and cultural activities. The service industries accounted for 81% of total UK economic output and 85% of employment in October-December 2023. Retail and wholesale trade and health and social care are the two sectors which account for the largest proportion of jobs at 13% each. When people are skint and they can't even buy food and pay the bills, they don't shop. And when governments are skint, they don't fund health and social care. One of my clients is a successful entrepreneur in the leisure and culture industry. He has thousands of great contacts and a successful podcast where he interviews many other entrepreneurs across the sector. He told me everyone is visibly shaken by the amount of bankruptcies, liquidations and businesses simply closing their doors since 2020. How many jobs in that sector have already been lost? Only this week, in Shore and by Sea, Ginger and Dobbs, a business that's been there for over 10 years, closed its doors. They employ at least 5 people. My son started his working life there. James Sinclair, successful entrepreneur and YouTuber and owner of the Partyman group of companies, has estimated that only about 5,000 companies in the UK control most of the jobs. He even estimates that the number is much lower due to one company usually owning and controlling many more, citing his own group of companies as an example. Of course, the owners, MDs or CEOs of the 24,000 companies who employ more than 1,000 people each won't be much affected personally by a massive downturn. If the company has a good business model, they'll be bought up by the other big boys. However, in the takeover, they will make huge number of people redundant. The businesses that will be most affected by this impending financial storm will be the SMEs. 150,318 small businesses employ 0 to 99 people. That's 15.3 million people in total. And 89,578 employ 100 to 249 people. That's 16.1 million people. Let's say the average per firm is 180. That's roughly 31 million people, or nearly half the population of the UK. According to the ONS and the 2021 census, 62.9%, 37.5 million of the population of England and Wales, was of working age, aged 16 to 64 years. I like the way they count the working age population as being aged up to 64 years when I won't get my pension, if at all by then, until I'm 67. Imagine if just 30% of those companies close their doors. That's 9.3 million people suddenly out of a job, on top of the 1.44 million already unemployed in December 23 to February 24. That's 16.5% of the population unemployed, compared to the 4.5% predicted by 2025 by the government. The worst recent peak was in 2011, with 8.1% unemployed, which is chicken feed compared to the 25% of the workforce unemployed in the Great Depression. Now, what would that percentage have become if you added in the other half of the population? Until the National Service Act 1941 made the conscription of women into the workplace legal, they were not counted as part of the official workforce. I suspect that the real percentage is very comparable to what may be coming soon for the UK population in 2024-2025. Several of my advisors say we could be looking at a 50% plus unemployment rate for the UK until people start self-organising and start creating jobs for themselves. They will have to do that or they won't be able to feed their families. The government won't be able to support them. It will have no currency, or the currency it does have will not be able to buy real goods like food. Now, you could argue that most of these people were doing bullshit jobs, as described by David Grauber, and this will be a blessing in disguise. In his book of the same name, David described the phenomena of bullshit jobs which pollute the working lives of so many. David describes the types and characteristics of pointless jobs and why they've become so widespread. He further explores the psychological impact of working in a pointless job and suggests a possible solution to eliminate the need for meaningless work. The possible solution David suggests, however, is trade unions and universal basic income, but I really don't see how trade unions are going to help. Where were they during COVID? Certainly not protecting their members from the jab mandates. Universal basic income is again going to be unaffordable for the government after any financial collapse, or it will buy nothing of any real value. Many argue that it saps the soul not having to work, so that's not a great long-term option for humanity either. I think we're going to be forced to go back to how things used to be. Real people producing real stuff and either bartering or being paid real money, gold or silver, for it. We might even evolve into using something like Bitcoin or a gold-backed crypto coin, depending on whether the internet is still running. As the government flail about trying to launch their one new currency after another, as in France after the French Revolution when they went through about 17 of them, people are going to step in, as they always do in an emergency, self-organise and set up coping systems. This will include, after the first shock has worn off, a method of barter for real goods and services. We're going to have to go back to making everything we need in the UK ourselves, as cheap exports will cease almost completely as currencies collapse in far-flung lands and mass manufacturing and international shipping dies off. Growing and producing food, unlocking energy sources again, breeding and caring for the animals needed for food and wool or cotton, weaving cotton or silk, designing and sewing durable clothes, crafting furniture, useful tools, music and entertainment, beautiful art and buildings, clearing up and restoring the countryside. While the nearly certain knowledge of getting paid for every hour that you sit doing the meaningless tasks demanded by your bullshit job is a reassuring feeling, surely many people employed in those industries right now hate their jobs. A good percentage must yearn for something to do that gives some personal pride and satisfaction, is creative, or at least a bit more meaningful. How many would choose to change things right now, given half a chance of earning a decent living doing something they love or are really good at, producing or offering something that other people really need? A decent living that doesn't involve commuting hours each day, dumping your beloved children with strangers, battling through the zombie hordes to arrive in a bland, soulless office, sending fluorescent light and EMF radiation at you. The burning question is, do those people in bullshit jobs have any skills, knowledge, passions or hobbies that could be turned into a side hustle right now and eventually a freelance job or even a business? Because that's what at least 30% of them, 50% according to one of my business mentors, will be forced to do eventually. People will be forced to go back to being farmers, craftsmen, tradies, food producers or creators with small cottage industries, distributing locally or working for people who are. Become mini entrepreneurs, in other words, because it's the entrepreneurs that will create the new jobs. Unfortunately, the word entrepreneur really scares people, especially people who are not born with the entrepreneurial gene running through them. Those who didn't feel compelled to, as soon as they hit school, to start searching for a way to make money, buying sweets, soft drinks, or later oversized Rizzlers wholesale, then selling retail. Doing paper rounds, working in the family business, mowing lawns, cleaning and cooking in old folks' homes, or filling shelves in small shops. Even nowadays, starting YouTube channels or becoming Instagram influencers, creating t-shirt companies or merch stores. Those who embody the quality of an entrepreneur, which include, but are not limited to, in no particular order, creative, proactive, efficient, curious, generous, resilient, innovative, passionate, teachable, easily bored, encouraging, bit of a control freak, great at setting up systems but not following them. I do believe that entrepreneurs are born that way, but that's not to say that everyone else can't become more entrepreneurial. Given the right knowledge and support, I think that anyone can start a small business and either stay small as a freelancer or solopreneur or grow the business big enough to employ others, because that's where the new jobs will come from. That's where meaningful jobs and new, local community-orientated lives will originate, not from trade unions and universal basic income. Shudder. But how will these future freelancers, solopreneurs, or business people become more entrepreneurial? How will diamonds in the rough hone their experience and skills, avoiding the all too common pitfalls even experienced business owners sometimes fall into? There are 3 effective ways to learn how to become a better entrepreneur. That's the name of my new book, by the way. You can read or listen to books written by people who have gone before. You can find a mentor who has achieved what you want to achieve. You can find a mentor who can teach you the skills you need. And that's where I come in. My mission is to share via my blog, my book, and my podcast the knowledge I've gained over 25 years of sometimes painful, often joyful experience, slowly gathering the mental attitude, skills, and tools to share with the next generation of entrepreneurs. Why not get started now without waiting for any financial crash? Just book into my diary to get your new enterprise started. Come to nicolacairnex.com/diary. Wake up, kick ass, repeat. This news article changed my life forever. It's International Coaching Week, and I thought I'd tell you the story of how coaching and working with great coaches completely transformed my life. I first read about life coaching in the Evening Standard newspaper back in 1998-99. I was sitting on the right-hand side of the train carriage, in the aisle seat. It was summer, because it was still light. While I usually read a book on the train, I had put it away and was flicking through the paper while alert, ready to stand up for my stop. The article talked about life coaching, but specifically in context of your career. And after a year of commuting, while reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I was ready for a change. I loved my job and my boss, Benny Gray, but my dream was to take my fledgling online business, artistmanager.com, forward to the next level, and I knew I needed help to do it. I went looking for a coach, specifically one who's been in the music industry. I reached out to the organisation mentioned in the article, the ICF, or International Coach Federation, to see if they knew of anyone. They put me in touch with Rachel Turner, who had previously co-founded a record label, publishing company and DJ management company with Carl Cox, a British mega DJ. We talked. I gulped a bit at her fees, but signed up. I really couldn't afford it, but we started work the next week. How can I describe the coaching process so that you really understand how life-changing working with Rachel and the coaching process in general really was? It absolutely changed my life for the better, and by osmosis or knock-on effect, that of some of the people around me. Imagine having a great friend in your life, one you met at college, who now lives at the other end of the country. Coaching is usually remotely done. They are straight-talking, direct, kind, a bit more experienced in life and either work or business, and always on your side. They totally believe in you, your potential for greatness, and they root for you every single week. While they know a bit about your background and family circumstances, they focus firmly on the here and now, but also have one eye on the future. They know a bit about human psychology, have read or listened extensively to most of the great books about motivation, happiness, money, business, or the world of work. A good coach will also have a number of bloody useful tools under their belt, like mental models, a bit of CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, wealth creation and money management, and a good dose of critical thinking, theory of constraints techniques, and good old-fashioned problem solving. More importantly, they have a wide network themselves and know how to help you find things out, seek out experts, and move things along. You meet virtually once a week or fortnight. You report in on actions taken, results achieved, and feelings felt. You discuss all of these, you decide on some next actions, and go off to take those. Sometimes you get access to your coach in between by email or WhatsApp, by Zoom group call for Q&A, and sometimes they have a Facebook group or a membership area for clients. Ironically, you'll get more done in the last hour before your next session with your coach than you ever would working on your own. You don't want to look lazy, and you certainly don't want to waste your own money, so you do tend to make more effort. I don't like the word accountability because it smacks of your coach being like a teacher, but lots of people crave it. If I had to sum all that up, I'd say it's usually a mix of strategic planning, personal support and resources, peer support, and yes, a bit of accountability. What you don't do, or at least not for long, is wallow in your misery. At one point, I sought out some therapy at the same time as working with a coach, having some emotional issues that I wanted to work on at a deeper level. It was miserable and expensive, and I don't think it achieved anything that I couldn't have achieved by reading a few more targeted books. I worked with Rachel for a couple of incredible years. She taught me so much about myself by her artful questioning and patient silence, giving me space to think things through myself. I came across many concepts I've never come across before. Fluffy sock list, anyone? And she encouraged me to train as a coach myself, which completely changed my life again. Eventually, I moved on to work with another coach she recommended to me, Chris Barrow, who specialises in working with dentists, as I felt I needed more specific sales expertise. I didn't, as it turned out, but working with Chris was another incredible experience, albeit very different, and it grew my confidence enormously. Through Chris, I also gained a mastermind group of other business coaches who really supported me through the next few years. One was a young internet genius, Guy Levine, who taught us all loads about marketing online. Because they liked to get out and about to big coaching events, I ended up going to Las Vegas, among other places, that I would never have done on my own. Ironically now, Chris works with Rachel as his coach after I recommended him to her many years later. When I bought the Acacia Hotel, no money down, and started the Money Gym, I met another great coach, Judith Morgan. After coaching her myself for a while, I invited her to become my business partner. Then we started a podcast, Own It, together, and I got coached indirectly for over 250 episodes. Since originally training with Coach U, I have gone on to work with many hundreds of people personally, and thousands if you add in group situations. I combine a down-to-earth style and highly practical approach with occasional flashes of emotional intuition and bucket loads of creative ideas. I hope I've given you a flavour of what it can be like to work with a coach in International Coaching Week. And if you get a chance to secure a taster coaching session, grab it with both hands. You'll get enough out of one session to know if the coach is right for you. If you're a business owner or entrepreneur or aspire to be one, and you'd like to talk to me and experience the magic of coaching for yourself, just book into my diary for a short complimentary session. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. Come to nicolacairnex.com/diary. And now we're going to crack on with my interview with Andy Shaw. This is part 2. I really hope you enjoy it.
To the office, and I showed him. I said, look, this is what I've made. I reckon I've made today. I said, you've got one more chance. Do you want in on this or not? And he went, you're right. They're wrong. I'm in. Right. And that was it. We went from there. And because my uncle had also told me years before that I was going to be a millionaire. And of course, I wasn't a millionaire. And so, at Christmas time in the year, I set my goal of being a millionaire within 2 years. Well, I achieved millionaire in just over 6 months and multi-millionaire 2 weeks later. It was, we made a fortune.
And being a millionaire means being not necessarily having $1 million in the bank, having $1 million in equity. The difference between what you owe and what you own.
Correct. Yeah, we weren't talking about the capital value, the total asset value. It was purely on the equity gain.
Okay, great. And you had quite a unique system, which we won't go into here because there's another interview where people can find out much more about that.
Yeah, effectively, we learned. I came up with this system, and I didn't realise other people had invented it as well because obviously I'd never read any books or talked to anybody about it. Yeah. But how we buy the house, and by the time we were completing on it, we'd have 1 to 6 weeks maximum. We'd refinance it, get all of our money out, get a load of cash as well. And so we had no money in the property. And so we were then every 6 weeks, we were using the money again to buy another one,
Yeah.
And so it became ridiculous. And the first year, I think I bought 74 properties worth over 12 million with none of my own money. And it was,
It was a machine by then,
yeah,
wasn't
it was a machine. And then the following year, we got super rich, so it was learn how to do it. Got to the end of the year, and I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm just making it off of a property market rise. Let's see if I can learn how to make it without a property market rise. And sure enough, I found out how to do it that way, and that supercharged it. And we just made an absolute fortune the following year.
And then someone else turned up with a sign on their back.
Yes, he did. He did. Well, he was there before, actually. He walked. I was working on a machine, and my my HR manager, was recruiting for production assistant to my production manager, and he walked past us in the factory when I was chatting to the production manager, and I just got this feeling again, exactly the same feeling as I had with my original business partner, and sure enough, called the HR manager in and said, well, are you going to employ that bloke or what? And he said, well, I'm probably going to give it to the other guy who's a bit more qualified. I said, no, give it to him. Give him the job. And he said, why is that? I said, I just got a feeling about him. And that was it. Took him on. He then helped us. It was a lot more than a production assistant. He came up with the idea for one of the businesses that made an absolute fortune again. And then I was, my role in that business that he created, it was his idea, was I had to provide the marketing and the put the bums on the seats, which is where you came in.
Because what I'd been doing while you were buying lots of different properties was I was buying a hotel, no money down, refurbishing it and filling it with people who'd stayed there before over the previous sort of 10 years, because I found an old guest book and turned it into a mailing list. And then I also had a mailing list from my business, which was called the Money Gym, which was a lot of people who were looking to get involved in property business and the stock market. They were trying to. It was a wealth creation education company. And then I got a call from my sister saying that she'd met a guy called Pete at a networking event, and I said, I mean, it was such an unusual thing for her to do, to go to a networking event. It was called BNI, which is Business Networking International. And he was sitting next to her, and she happened to be looking for windows for her new investment property. She found out he was in the window business, so they got talking, and then he invited her up to meet you guys, and she turned up with a small baby and a dog, I think, and talked. I remember it well. And do you really? And then she phoned me and said, "You've got to come home," because I was living in Spain at the time. And when you next come home, you've got to come and meet these guys, because they are doing exactly what you teach people to do, but they're doing it big scale. And he said they've never read a book about how to do this stuff. So that was really a real series of mega coincidences, wasn't it? That has led to
absolutely
an amazing friendship, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember I was a bit scared of you at the beginning. I was quite, actually, because you used to sit off in your office, and I could tell how clever you were. I don't like to say that in public very often.
I know, it's awful, I know.
But so, you were always very friendly, but I really had more to do with the underlings. And actually, no, your business partners. And we got involved in a series of great adventures, didn't we? We put on a wealth creation conference. We introduced you to my clients at my hotel.
Well, you talked me into doing digital business. And
I had a digital marketing training day at the hotel, and I said, "Come on, you'll love it." And you're like me, you're curious. You want to know about stuff, don't you?
I do, yeah. I wasn't going to go, and you said to me, I said, "Well, how much money can you make doing this?" And you went, "Oh, probably about 150,000 a year." And I thought, well, I'm pulling that. Some weeks I'm pulling that sort of money out.
But you were gracious enough not to tell me that.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought, all right, I'll go along. And I'd never been to anything like this at all before. And I went along, and you taught me how to put a website online, and I put this poker site online because it was something I was playing poker at the time, just started playing poker. Put this online. I didn't make any money that day, but the following day I'd invested $10 and I'd made $10. And it was just changed my world because I looked at it and went, so I can sit behind a computer and I can tap a few keys, put some money on the table and make more money than I put on the table. I found a new purpose in life. To me, it was like, well, you mean I don't have to employ anybody? I don't have to build factories. I don't have to have huge capital investments.
That's the appeal, wasn't it? And for anyone watching who remembers back in the day of mid 2000s, it was the underachievers method I was teaching with Frank Kern and Ed Dale, who were partners at the time, and they taught people how to drive traffic to a capture page, build a mailing list by asking one question about something. And then you basically created an ebook with all the answers and sold it back to them. It was absolutely genius. I tried several things, like I was the guinea pig whisperer for a while and things like that, but I just couldn't get interested in it. My problem is if I'm not interested, I can't do it. But you picked something was your hobby anyway.
No, it wasn't. It was. Oh no, well that first bit was, but then it was a case of
what happened after that?
Well, after that, I looked at it and thought, this is great. But there's no way I'm going to sit and learn all this stuff and learning how to do FTP and all that, a load of rubbish. All I wanted to do was push a button and make money. So I thought, right, I need somebody to do this for me. So I went and I got a friend who was running one of my businesses. And we just sold that business. So he wasn't particularly happy where he was. And so I went and poached him and said, come and learn digital marketing. He said, I know nothing about it. I said, because he built one of my companies from zero, and we sold it within I think it was about 2 years. And so I said, you don't need to know that. I said, need to know how to I already trust your ability to turn things. So I'll get you the education. And he came over and we had a half a day with you showing him the basics of what you'd shown me. And that was it. And we just needed an idea. So on the way home, I came up with an idea. I said, go and do that. Yeah, see what happens with that. And it was a ridiculous idea. And it just flew, didn't it? It just really took off. I couldn't. It was in those days when everything I touched turned to gold.
This is a good opportunity to talk about that, because the other thing I wanted to bring people's attention, particularly, was that you have always had a unique ability to direct your thoughts and plan your life with utter fearlessness. As far as I can tell. And in fact, that's how you met your wife, because you planned out, it was the law of attraction in action, basically, wasn't it? Well, but nobody ever talked about it like that in those days.
The problem is I'd split up with a girlfriend, and, I didn't realise I thought differently to other people. And, I remember one of the first job as an apprentice, I was always getting into trouble. And, they said, well, why do you think so much? And it was like, that was a crazy thing for people to say to me.
Yeah, really. Anyway, it's like, we can turn it off, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, I'd split up with this girlfriend, and I thought, so we're just, I thought, this is ridiculous. We're just supposed to bump into the person we're supposed to meet, are we? That's supposed to just randomly happen. And I thought, well, I don't even really know what I want. And so it was a Sunday, and I just sat there and I came up with everything I wanted in a person. She had to look like this. She had to be this sort of height. She had to come from a home with both parents weren't divorced. She had to have an elder brother or sister. She had to live within 15 miles. She had to be within 100 yards of wherever I travelled. And I came up with everything. She had to find my jokes funny. She had to like what sort of, which she does occasionally. She had to fancy me. And I came up with every possible thing I could think of. This was a Sunday, and I thought, yeah, that's pretty exhausted it. Yep, that's it. I didn't give it much more of a thought. I put it down. I saw her the next day. Right? First time I'd ever seen her was the next day. I didn't actually talk to her for about 6 weeks. Then a few years later, I'd forgotten about all this. And a few years later, I found the piece of paper. It was like, oh my God, I manifested her, and much to her annoyance, especially when I wrote it in my book on manifesting, and that was one of the times I learned that you could really direct your mind to get whatever you want. I can give you countless examples of having used it to do some amazing things.
Yeah. Business is going great-ish, but you now are starting to make some serious money with property. So you decided to sell the business? That was another example of manifesting, wasn't it?
My role in the business had ended because I was getting very bored with doing the same thing over and over. And so I'd recruited people to do the jobs I was doing, sort of thing. And my role ended up being marketing. And so we went to one of the seminars we went to. I can't remember what it was, early part of 2006. And I was at a seminar with you.
Internet marketing seminar. And I was invited there by Alan Forrest Smith, and I'm interviewing him straight after this today.
It was a guy there. There was 2 pieces of information I learned at this thing, which were priceless. One of them was this guy talked to me about mind maps, and I'd learned about it years ago. I'd never done anything with it. And he says, you've got to throw all your thoughts into a mind map. He says, you'll learn so much more. And the other thing, there was this guy, Fred Gleek, was there, and he said, you might be an expert until you've written a book, you're not. And I thought, oh, right, okay. So anyway, I went away from the seminar, and I bought the mind mapping software, and I sat there. My wife was take the children to bed, and she'd normally be gone for a couple of hours reading them stories and things like that. I thought, what am I going to do? Oh, right, I've got this mind map, and I loaded it on. I'm pretty technically moronic when it comes to tech stuff. I thought, what should I do with it? And I thought, I've been meaning to write a book. Yeah, okay. Shall we start fleshing this out? Anyway, 3.5 hours later, I'd come up with a book, all the chapter titles, most of the bullet points, and basically I set myself a goal of writing the book quite quickly because I didn't have a lot of time. Ended up writing a 450-page book in just under 20 hours.
Not so much a book as a brick.
Yeah, and it was, and it took a lot more than the 20 hours to edit it and that sort of thing. But I'd basically got it all, and it was in place, done in 20 hours. And I knew it was quite good because my wife was laughing at some of the things I'd written in the book. So I thought, this is probably quite good. And you'd encouraged me to write.
I knew you'd be able to write a book and that's how I planned the Money Gym book as well, was by mind mapping it like that. Because mind mapping changed my life completely. It's for visual people, isn't it? And creative people. It's a way of organising the chaos.
Yes, it is, yeah. We did that, and I thought, right, I haven't really got time to do the marketing of it. What I really need is a world-class marketing expert. So I sat there and I considered, how I would get a world-class marketing expert to come and work with me. 2 weeks later, a world-class marketing expert asked to work with me. Then I met him, and what came along with him was more than one world-class marketing expert. I'd team of them. We met up, and we were, we all met up. They flew in from America and Spain, and we met up at the Gatwick Hilton, and we sat there and, what are we going to do? Right. We got really grandiose ideas we had and that sort of thing. And they said, right, we need a quick project to make us a little bit of money to start with. And I'd taken them a copy of my book each because they were literally hot off the presses. And I said, well, you can help me promote that if you want. And they said, yeah, let's do that. And of course, it was an instant success because those 2 geniuses knew how to market like no tomorrow.
And they really knew how to use AdWords as well, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. They were incredibly clever. And it was working with them was one of the greatest educations that I've ever had in any particular subject.
They were really under the radar, though, weren't they? I mean, they were top class people who used to work for the names.
Yeah. They were both experts, both became good friends. One of them is no longer with us, unfortunately. But sure enough, we did it. We launched it. It became an instant bestseller. I ended up being the best-selling author on that subject in the UK within, I don't know, a month or 2. We built the company that transformed the business. Now my role went from 20 days a month to 10 minutes a month, doing my work. And it took the business to the next level. That spawned off multiple different ideas, other businesses, and that sort of thing. And it just went crazy very, very quickly. That was 2000, late 2006, early 2007, and yet another success. It was brilliant.
It was great days, wasn't it? I mean, the mid-late 2000s were just incredible, and then. We're going to talk a lot about post 2020 in a minute, but there's also post 2008, 2009, isn't there?
Yeah,
Did you have any inkling what was coming?
Well, no, I did, but the problem was I was on a train and couldn't get off the train. So I saw it coming and was saying to everybody, look, I think this is going to crash. My closest business associates, I think this is going to crash. I'm not sure how we're going to get out of this. And but there was no way off for us at that stage. We were in negotiations with the Bank of Scotland to sell the business to them, and we had countless investors and countless different customers and that sort of thing. And sure enough, I actually wrote in the first book, I said, people used to say the most common question was, is there any way this can fail? I went, the only way this can fail is if all the banks stop lending money at the same time.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross of nicolacarenext.com. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show today. We've got lots of resources on the website, so do come over to check them out. And by all means, feel free to book yourself into my diary at nicolacarenext.com/diary. I love to talk to entrepreneurs.